In the mind's theater, you'll discover how to break free from the invisible scripts that have been controlling your life. Learn how to rewrite your inner story and step into the power of conscious creation. This book will guide you to become the author of your own reality. The Mind's Theater. Introduction. Somewhere, in the vast expanse of your mind, there's a theater. It's where your thoughts perform, where your past plays out like a familiar script, and where your future is projected as a dream yet to be written. But most of us don't realize this theater exists. We live our lives in a constant state of reaction, as if the scenes unfolding before us are set in stone, as if we have no say in what comes next. What if you could change that? What if you could step backstage, pull the curtain aside and see the scripts that have been running your life, scripts written by your past, your fears, and the expectations others placed upon you? The truth is, you've been playing a role for years, maybe since childhood, and you didn't even know it. Every decision you make, every relationship you enter, every belief you hold is influenced by the invisible play happening inside your mind. But the good news is this: you can rewrite the script. You can change the narrative. The Mind's Theater is an invitation to do just that, to step into your own creative power and become the director of your life. It's time to take ownership of the stories you tell yourself and others. It's time to see that you are not just the actor in this play, you are the author. Your thoughts, emotions, and beliefs are the scenes, and you have the ability to rewrite them. This book will help you step into the director's chair, giving you the tools to identify the invisible scripts that no longer serve you, break free from the roles that have confined you, and write new scenes that align with who you truly are. The curtain is rising. Your story is waiting to be written. Are you ready to take the stage? Chapter 1. The Invisible Script. Before you ever chose who you wanted to be, the world handed you a script. It didn't come with a title page or a warning. It was passed down in glances, in punishments, in praise. Somewhere in your earliest memories, long before you had language for your emotions, someone taught you how to feel acceptable. Maybe they said you were too much or not enough. Maybe they clapped when you smiled and turned away when you cried. So you learned to edit yourself. You memorized lines like, "Be strong, don't ask for help, earn your worth." And now, as an adult, you're still performing that same story, still acting out a role that once kept you safe, but now quietly suffocates your truth. The strange thing is, we rarely question the script. We don't stop to ask, whose words are these? Or, what if I no longer believe this part? Instead, we repeat the same emotional scenes, overworking for validation, hiding our needs, chasing love from people who mirror our oldest wounds. The invisible script is powerful because it feels like reality, but it's just a rehearsal of old beliefs played out in modern life. And if you never stop to see the script, you'll never realize you can rewrite it. You'll live on autopilot, convincing yourself this is just how things are. But the moment you begin to notice, really notice that your thoughts are not truths but echoes, something shifts. Awareness enters the theater. And that's where your freedom begins. Not in fighting the old scenes, but in realizing you are not the role. You are the writer now. The script isn't sacred, it's just a draft. And it's finally time to hold the pen. Chapter 2. The Echo of Childhood Applause. Somewhere deep in your memory, there's a moment when you were clapped for, maybe not with hands, but with a smile, a proud look, or a gentle nod that made your young heart swell. In that instant, a message was planted. This version of me is lovable. And so the chase began. You learned which versions of yourself brought applause and which drew silence, criticism, or withdrawal. Maybe you were praised for being quiet, so you hushed your wildness. Maybe they cheered when you were tough, so you buried your tears. Or maybe no one clapped at all, and you grew up performing for a ghost crowd, hoping one day the right audience would finally stand. We carry those echoes into adulthood without realizing how loud they still are. We choose jobs, partners, and personas based on what once made someone proud. But we rarely stop to ask, what if that applause trained me to become someone I'm not? What if the praise I lived for taught me to abandon my truest self? It's painful to admit that some of our strengths were survival tactics, that the confidence, the control, the charm might have been responses to a childhood stage where love had conditions. But here's the truth. Applause isn't always approval of who you are. Sometimes it's just approval of who you pretended to be. And the work now is to walk off that old stage, to stop waiting for claps from people who never saw the real you, and to begin building a new inner audience, one that doesn't cheer based on your performance, but on your presence. Because the moment you no longer need applause to feel worthy, you finally hear something louder, your own voice, steady and clear, whispering, "You are enough, just as you are." Chapter 3. The Costume of Confidence. Confidence is often mistaken for certainty, but what the world applauds as strength is sometimes just a costume, stitched together with borrowed quotes, forced smiles, and the desperate hope that no one sees, the trembling underneath. We learn early that vulnerability makes people uncomfortable, that softness invites judgment, that showing fear can cost you approval, respect, or connection. So we adapt. We become performers of poise, masters of self-control, experts at saying "I'm fine" when we're breaking inside. We post curated moments, speak in practiced tones, and walk into rooms like we own them, while secretly hoping no one notices the fear pacing behind our ribs. But costumes, no matter how polished, get heavy. And if you wear them too long, you start to forget who you are beneath them. The mind gets tangled in the performance, mistaking survival for identity. You begin to confuse the applause with love, the mask with your face. And yet, beneath the act, there's a quieter truth. Real confidence doesn't demand performance. It isn't loud or perfect or bulletproof. It's honest. It's soft when it needs to be. It admits, "I don't know," and still walks forward. True confidence isn't the absence of fear. It's the decision to move anyway, without betraying your truth to look powerful. The world may keep cheering for the costume, but your soul is waiting for the moment you walk on stage as yourself, unfiltered, imperfect, and whole. That's the kind of presence that doesn't just impress. It frees people. Because when you finally take off the costume, you give everyone around you permission to do the same. Chapter 4. The Fearful Director. Inside the mind's theater, fear is often the loudest director, shouting from the wings, calling cut before the scene has a chance to unfold, demanding safety over truth, control over creativity. Fear doesn't care about growth. It craves survival. It casts you in roles that play small, dimming your light to avoid judgment, scripting every moment with, "What if it goes wrong?" instead of, "What if it goes right?" And because fear sounds so convincing, so rational, so responsible, we trust it. We let it make the final decisions. Don't speak up. Don't ask for more. Don't risk being seen. We call it caution, but really, it's captivity. This fearful director doesn't scream like a villain. It whispers like a friend trying to protect you from disappointment. But in doing so, it keeps you from possibility. Every time you've hesitated to try something new, to say what you really feel, to change the scene of your life. It wasn't laziness or weakness. It was fear, quietly pulling the strings. And the worst part? Fear doesn't just direct. It edits. It cuts out your boldest ideas before they ever reach the stage. But the truth is, you're not the actor anymore. You've outgrown the part of the one who always listens to fear. You are the conscious director now. And while fear may always be in the room, it no longer gets the final word. You can take the script from its hands and say, "Thank you for trying to keep me safe, but I'm ready to risk something real." That's the moment the entire theater shifts, when courage steps forward, not with certainty, but with willingness. Fear might still call from the shadows, but you no longer obey. You're directing your own life now, and the story just got interesting. Chapter 5. The Critic in the Balcony. There's a voice in your head that never buys a ticket but always has an opinion. A critic seated high in the balcony of your mind, arms crossed, waiting for you to mess up. It speaks in your own voice, but harsher, colder, more unforgiving. It remembers every mistake, rewinds every stumble, and whispers that you'll never be enough. You might think it's there to protect you, to keep you humble, safe, grounded. But really, it's just reenacting every judgment you absorbed when you were too young to defend yourself. Maybe it sounds like a parent who never saw your worth or a teacher who dismissed your potential. Over time, their doubts became your soundtrack, playing softly in the background of everything you do. The critic doesn't scream, it undermines. It questions your worth with subtle daggers. Who do you think you are? That wasn't good enough. They're going to see through you, and when you succeed, it finds a way to dim the light. It was luck. It won't last. You could have done better. The tragedy isn't that the critic exists, it's that we start to believe it's telling the truth. We don't realize that it's just one voice in the theater, not the director, not the author, and certainly not the audience that matters. But here's the turning point. When you recognize the critic, you reclaim your power. You stop handing the microphone to someone who never clapped for you. You start responding with compassion, not compliance. You begin to build a new voice, gentler, wiser, kinder, that roots for you instead of watching you fall. The critic may never disappear completely, but it can lose its influence. Because when you finally stop performing for that balcony seat, you make space to perform for your soul. Chapter 6. The Scene We Keep Repeating. There's a strange comfort in pain we recognize. It's the reason we keep walking into the same emotional rooms, reciting the same tired lines, and calling it fate. Maybe it's the partner who feels like home but leaves you hollow. Maybe it's the job that drains your soul yet feels safer than chasing purpose. We say we want change, but our mind clings to the familiar, even when it hurts, because repetition feels like control. Somewhere deep inside, a part of you believes this is just who I am, or this is how love works, because once, long ago, that pattern was survival. And now, like an old film stuck on loop, you replay it not because it's true, but because it's unfinished. The scene keeps repeating not to torture you but to wake you up. It's your mind's way of saying, this wound still needs light. But we rarely pause long enough to rewrite the script. Instead, we chase different people with the same energy, change scenery without changing the story, and wonder why the ending stays the same. You are not cursed. You are rehearsing. And when you finally step back from the noise and name the pattern, you interrupt the trance. The truth is, healing begins the moment you stop blaming the characters and start questioning the script. The scene only repeats because you haven't yet claimed the power to write a new one. But you can. You don't have to keep proving your worth. chasing approval, fearing abandonment, or hiding your voice. You can walk off that old stage mid-sentence, tear up the script, and choose silence over performance. In that stillness, a new story begins. Not one borrowed from the past, but one rooted in awareness, and that's how you break the loop. Chapter 7. The script of not enough. There's a quiet sentence that plays in the background of so many lives, barely audible but endlessly persuasive. You're not enough. It doesn't scream. It whispers, like a stage cue you've rehearsed since childhood. It shows up in small hesitations before you speak your mind, in the ache you feel when someone else shines, in the way you second-guess your wins and shrink your dreams to avoid looking foolish. Maybe it started when someone important to you withheld approval, or when you were praised only for perfection. Over time, you began to believe that your worth had to be earned, proven, performed. So you became the achiever, the fixer, the pleaser, or the quiet one, whatever role helped you feel almost enough. But the problem with performing for love is that the applause never lasts. The curtain always falls, and you're left wondering who you are when no one's watching. This script doesn't just limit your confidence, it distorts your identity. It keeps you rehearsing the same lines of inadequacy while real life passes by, waiting for you to take up space as you truly are. But here's the secret most people never hear. Enough was never a destination to reach. It was a truth to remember. You were enough before the world convinced you otherwise. The belief that you are incomplete is not humility. It's conditioning. And the moment you stop rehearsing that lie, you make space for something far more powerful: wholeness. So pause. Look at your inner dialogue. Who told you that you had to be more than you already are? Whose voice are you still trying to satisfy? You don't need a new role. You need to return to your real self, because the most honest performance you'll ever give is the one where you stop pretending. Chapter 8. The Forgotten Performer. There comes a time in every person's life when they lose sight of who they truly are. Somewhere between the applause of childhood and the endless demands of adulthood, we forget that we were once bold, unafraid, and unapologetically ourselves. We slip into roles that others cast us in, roles of responsibility, conformity, and expectation, and in doing so, we bury the essence of who we once were. The performer who danced with wild abandon, who spoke without fear, who laughed with genuine joy becomes lost in the wings of the stage, overshadowed by the weight of adult concerns. We stop showing up for ourselves, thinking that the demands of life are more important than the dreams that once sparked our spirit. It's as if we've become extras in a play where we once were the lead. We say yes to everything, suppressing the quiet voice within that longs to be free, to be seen, to be heard. But the truth is, the performer hasn't disappeared. She's still in there, tucked beneath the layers of obligation and fear, waiting for the right moment to take the stage again. And when you decide to listen, really listen, to that voice within, it's like the lights come back on and you remember who you were before the world told you who to be. It's never too late to reclaim your performance, to break free from the roles that no longer serve you, and to step back into the spotlight of your own life. The forgotten performer is only waiting for you to remember her, and when you do, the world will be ready for the show she's about to put on. Chapter 9. The Intermission We Avoid. We rush through life, always on stage, always performing, as if stopping for a break would mean we're failing. But in the rush to keep the show going, we forget that even the greatest performances need intermissions. Rest isn't a luxury. It's a necessity. The moment you step off stage, even if just for a moment, is when clarity returns. Yet most of us are terrified of that silence. We're afraid that if we stop moving, we'll face what we've been avoiding, the vulnerability, the stillness, the parts of ourselves we're not sure we can handle. So we keep busy. We fill every gap with noise, with tasks, with anything that distracts us from that uncomfortable pause. But without intermission, there's no real transformation. The mind, like any artist, needs time to process, to reflect, and to reset. That's where growth happens. During the quiet moments, the pauses between acts, when we allow ourselves to feel without the need to impress or perform. Life isn't about non-stop action. It's in the resting, in the release, in the moments when we let the curtain fall for just a while. These pauses don't mean we're weak. They mean we're wise enough to know that true strength comes from within, from our ability to face ourselves without distraction. The intermission is not to be feared. It's a gift we give ourselves. A reminder that sometimes the most powerful thing we can do is nothing at all. Chapter 10. The Prop Room of Memories. In the hidden corners of your mind lies a prop room filled with relics from your past, old moments that have become part of your identity without your permission. There are photographs, words, and experiences that you carry around as if they were essential to who you are, yet you never questioned if they were meant to be there. You might hold on to the memory of a time when you felt small or unimportant, believing it defines your worth. Or perhaps you clutch the remnants of an event where you felt abandoned, convinced it explains every relationship you've had since. These props, the scars of your past, were meant to be temporary, but somewhere along the way they became permanent fixtures in your performance. The truth is, the memories you keep in this room don't define you unless you let them. They are just props, lying idle in the dark, waiting for you to pick them up and say, "This is my story." But the props only have power if you continue to act in the same play, repeating the same lines, reliving the same roles. What if, instead of allowing these memories to dictate your present, you chose to place them down? What if you no longer needed to carry the weight of those old stories, pretending they are part of your set? When you begin to look at these memories, not as truths but as props, you realize they are not the whole show. They are just pieces of the script, and you have the power to decide if you want them on stage anymore. Your story is still being written, and you are the one holding the pen. Chapter 11. The Spotlight of Shame. Shame is the spotlight no one wants but everyone fears. It doesn't shine on your achievements or your joys. It targets the parts of you that are vulnerable, imperfect, and human. It's the feeling that creeps in when you make a mistake and suddenly in your mind the whole world is watching. Your flaws, your past, your fears are all magnified. Every tiny misstep exaggerated in a spotlight that never dims. It's not the kind of light that illuminates growth or progress. It isolates. It convinces you that you're somehow unworthy, like you're the only one who's ever failed, fallen short, or been less than perfect. In these moments, you forget that being human means being messy, and the shame that paralyzes you is not a reflection of who you truly are. It's a distortion. It doesn't matter that everyone else is living out their own imperfect stories. Shame tells you your story is different, and not in a good way. It convinces you that you don't belong, that you should hide, shrink, or disappear. But here's the truth. Shame thrives in silence and secrecy. The moment you step into the light and share what you're holding in, it loses its power. That shame, which once controlled you, becomes just a shadow of what it once was. You are not the sum of your mistakes, your imperfections, or your failures. You are the sum of your resilience, your growth, and the courage it takes to stand in the spotlight and say, "I am enough just as I am." The light may shine, but you are the one who gets to define what it reveals. Chapter 12. The Audition for Love. We've all auditioned for love at some point, presenting versions of ourselves we thought others would accept. We wear masks of confidence, perfection, and charm, all in the hopes of hearing those validating words, "I love you." But what happens when the applause fades, and you realize the love you've been seeking was never truly yours? We live in a world where we're constantly judged, evaluated, and ranked in the eyes of others. So naturally, we craft performances to match what we think they want to see. We become experts at reading the room, adjusting our behavior to fit the expectations, all in an attempt to be chosen, to be loved. But in doing so, we lose sight of our true selves. The problem with this audition is that the person you're pretending to be is never truly seen or loved. You become so caught up in playing the part that you forget you're the one who needs to love yourself first. The love you seek outside can never fill the emptiness if you haven't first embraced who you are inside. True love isn't something you have to earn or audition for. It's something that arises from knowing your worth without needing validation. It's accepting yourself fully, flaws, quirks, and all. When you step off the stage of performing for others and simply exist in your authenticity, love will find you, not as a performance, but as a recognition of your deepest truth. The greatest love is the one that recognizes you for who you are, not who you pretend to be. And once you stop auditioning, that love will find its way to you. Chapter 13. The Rewritten Line. You've carried a script for so long that it feels like part of your identity, like a line you must always say to stay in character. But what if that line was never meant for you? What if it was written by someone else, someone who couldn't see the full depth of who you are? For years, maybe even decades, you've repeated lines like, "I'm not good enough," or "I'll never make it," or "I can't handle this." You've believed them so fully that they've shaped your every move, your every decision, as if those words were the law of your existence. But the truth is, every line in your script can be rewritten, no matter how many times you've said it before. You are not bound by the limitations of your past thoughts or your past mistakes. What if today was the day you decided to change your line, to replace the old, tired narrative with one that honors your potential, your growth, and your evolving journey? You can rewrite the line that says, "I am broken," and replace it with, "I am healing." You can rewrite the line that says, "I am stuck," and replace it with, "I am moving forward, one step at a time." The power of transformation lies not in fighting the old script, but in the quiet revolution of deciding to write something new. It's in the small, courageous decision to break free from the confines of what you were told you could be, and to embrace the expansive possibilities of who you are becoming. When you rewrite your line, you reclaim your power, and the whole script begins to shift. Chapter 14. The Broken Stage Light. There are moments when life feels like a play performed in darkness. The stage is set, but the lights, those guiding beams of clarity, flicker and fade, leaving you in a fog of uncertainty. You can't see the script anymore, nor the faces in the audience. The once clear path ahead now feels like an endless maze. It's in these moments that doubt creeps in, and the self you thought you knew seems out of reach. You wonder if the role you've been playing was ever yours at all. The light that once illuminated your purpose feels broken, and you're left to stumble in the shadows, unsure if your next step will lead you forward or further away. But here's the truth. This darkness is not your end. It's the intermission. The moment when the show stops so the actor can rediscover themselves off stage. The broken light isn't a signal to quit. It's a reminder that the performance doesn't have to be seen by anyone else right now. You're allowed to pause, reset, and find your footing in the silence. The brightest performances often come after the darkest moments. The stage is still there, waiting for you to step back into the spotlight. But first, you must trust that the light will return. Sometimes not because it's fixed, but because you've learned to shine from within. When the external lights fail, the most important one is the one you find inside yourself. And that light, unbreakable, is what will guide you back to the stage, ready to perform not for approval but for the pure joy of being seen. Chapter 15. The Applause That Doesn't Heal. We live in a world that celebrates achievement, applause ringing out for every success, yet somehow, the sound never fills the empty spaces inside. The applause we receive from others, no matter how loud or frequent, cannot heal what's broken beneath the surface. It feels good, of course, the recognition, the acknowledgement, but it's fleeting, like trying to quench a thirst with sand. We've been taught to believe that external validation is the balm for our wounds, that if others approve, we'll finally feel whole. But as we chase this applause, we discover it's hollow, as temporary as the spotlight that's always shifting. The truth is, when we're waiting for the world to heal us with its praise, we remain stuck in a pattern of needing more, seeking more, but never receiving what truly nurtures us. Real healing doesn't come from the crowd, from the approval of others, or from performing for applause. It comes from a deeper place, from within. It's the quiet, private acceptance of who we truly are, unfiltered and unapologetic, that allows the wounds to close. The applause we seek is not meant to fill the empty parts. It's our own voice, our own compassion, that needs to rise above the noise. When we stop relying on external applause to validate us and instead start applauding ourselves, we shift the energy. We stop seeking external fixes and begin creating our own peace. True healing isn't a show for others. It's a moment of silent recognition that we are worthy, just as we are, no validation required. And in this realization, we discover the most powerful applause, the one we give ourselves for simply being enough. Chapter 16. The Silent Scenes. There are parts of you that no one sees, the silent scenes that play out in the privacy of your mind, where only you know the depth of your thoughts and feelings. These hidden moments are often the most powerful, the ones that define who you are, who you've been, and who you have the potential to become. They don't get applause or recognition because they aren't visible to the world, but they are the heartbeat of your story. Maybe it's in the quiet moments of self-doubt, the secret conversations you have with yourself in the middle of the night, or the strength you summon when no one is watching. These silent scenes are where your rawest, truest self resides. They are not for public consumption. They are yours alone to experience, and yet, they shape everything about how you show up in the world. But sometimes, these silent moments can feel like they're drowning in the noise of everyone else's expectations. When you're constantly performing, constantly seeking validation, you can lose sight of these inner truths. You forget that they are the parts of you that matter most. The world is loud, but your silence has power. It's where clarity lives, where creativity stirs, and where your inner compass points the way forward. The trick is to honor these moments, to give them space to breathe. When you stop pretending, stop performing for approval, you can finally hear the whispers of your own soul. The silent scenes don't need a spotlight, they need your presence. Because when you tune into them, you reconnect with your most authentic self, and from there, everything shifts. Chapter 17. The Final Curtain for Old Roles. There comes a point in every performance when you realize the role you've been playing no longer fits. It's a moment of quiet but undeniable awareness, like a tight costume that once felt just right but now binds you with every move. You've worn these roles for so long that they've become part of your identity. the overachiever, the fixer, the quiet observer, the caregiver who always puts others first. But these roles were never meant to last forever. They were written at a time when you needed them, when they protected you or made you feel valuable. Yet, as time passes, you've grown, you've evolved, and those old scripts no longer serve your truth. The hardest part isn't realizing the need for change. It's the grief of shedding what you thought you were. Letting go of these familiar parts feels like you're losing a piece of yourself, but in reality, you're simply releasing the illusions you've been holding on to. The ego fights this change because it thrives in the comfort of the known. But the soul knows this. The role you've been playing isn't your essence, it's just a mask. And when you choose to take it off, there's a space, a breath of freedom, that opens up inside of you. It's not easy to face the truth of your old roles, to confront who you've been pretending to be, but it's necessary. The final curtain for these old roles is not the end. It's the beginning of your true self stepping forward without apology or pretense. It's time to let the mask fall and step into the full light of who you've always been beneath the performance. Chapter 18. The rewrite begins. The moment you realize that the script you've been living by isn't set in stone, the power to rewrite it becomes yours. For so long you've been playing a character whose lines were dictated by fear, by past failures, by what others told you you could or couldn't do. But now you stand at the threshold of a new act. This is the pivotal moment where the ink is in your hands, where you can alter the storyline. The most powerful part of this journey is not just realizing the script is flawed, but understanding that you have been the author all along, even if it's taken you this long to recognize it. Every belief, every habit, every repeated thought that has limited you was written by your past self, but that self no longer holds dominion over who you are today. The rewrite begins when you stop blaming the past and start owning your agency in the present. It's in the moments of conscious choice, choosing to believe in your worth, choosing to step away from old patterns, choosing to act from a place of clarity rather than fear, that the story starts to change. This isn't about erasing your past, it's about integrating it. The lessons you've learned, the wounds you've carried, all have a place in the new narrative. They are not mistakes, they are chapters of growth. But now, you get to write the direction you want to go in. The future is an open script, and you are no longer an actor waiting for direction. You are the creator of your own story. The rewrite begins when you believe that the power to change is always within your reach. Chapter 19. The Audience Within. For so long you've been performing for others, seeking their approval, their validation, their applause. You've shaped your words, your actions, and even your identity around what you think they want to see. But there's a truth you may have overlooked. The most important audience is not out there waiting for your next act. It's within you. Inside the walls of your own mind, there's a voice, the one that's been quietly observing, waiting for you to listen. This audience isn't concerned with perfection. It doesn't demand that you fit into preordained roles or deliver a flawless performance. It simply wants you to be real, to be you. The problem is, for so long you've been focused on performing for external validation that you've forgotten how to honor the applause that comes from within. The voice of your inner audience is the one that speaks when you're honest with yourself, when you drop the masks, when you finally stop pretending. It's the voice that whispers, "You've always been enough," even when the world says otherwise. And the moment you begin to listen, everything shifts. You stop performing for others' expectations and start playing for your own soul. The applause you've been chasing outside is no longer needed because you have found your worth in the silence of your own heart. In that quiet, you realize you don't need an audience to validate your existence. You are the show, and your true audience has always been there, waiting for you to take center stage as you are. Chapter 20. The Standing Ovation. At some point, you stop performing for the approval of others. You realize that the standing ovation you've been chasing doesn't come from the audience. It comes from within. For years, you might have believed that you had to play a part to be seen, to be loved, or to be worthy. But the truth is, the moment you step off the stage and stop waiting for applause, you finally experience the real standing ovation. It's not about being perfect or flawless in the eyes of the world. It's about being true to who you are, in every scene, in every line. The audience outside might not always understand, but the audience inside, your heart, your soul, the very essence of who you are, will rise to its feet, not because of what you do, but because you finally chose to live as your truest self. There's power in this realization. You are the author, the director, and the performer. You don't need to bend to an outdated script, nor do you need to chase someone else's approval. The standing ovation is the moment you stop seeking external validation and start honoring your own journey. It's the applause of self-recognition, the sound of you celebrating your own existence, knowing that the greatest performance you'll ever give is the one where you're simply yourself. When you accept that, you step into a life that is yours to create. And in this final scene, there's no curtain call, no exit stage left, because your performance never truly ends. It is eternal, unfolding with each conscious breath. Conclusion. As the curtain falls on the mind's theater, know that your journey is far from over. The act of becoming the conscious author of your own life is not a single moment, but an ongoing process, a series of rewrites, revisions, and releases. You've walked through the illusion of being merely an actor in your own mind's play. You've seen how the invisible script held you in roles you didn't choose, and you've begun to question the lines you once believed were truth. But now you understand something fundamental. The stage was never your cage. The theater of your mind is your canvas, your masterpiece to create. The applause, the judgment, the critics, they no longer define you. You are the director, the writer, and the star of your own story. And the best part? You get to keep rewriting it as many times as you need. The show isn't over. It's just beginning. Your script is yours to design, free from the limitations of old scripts that no longer serve you. Each day you can choose a new role, a new act, a new direction. So, as the lights dim, remember this. You are the one who shapes the story. You are the one who decides how it ends. The mind's theater is vast and full of potential. Now step into your power and direct the greatest show of your life.